News on a Tuesday evening. The usual news. I'd like to tackle with another issue which is concerning Europe. Every one of us. The so-called invasion. Now, throughout man's history, immigration always existed. We were hunters once before. We migrated from one hunting location to another. For the winter, we went to other locations. Then afterwards, man started to do agriculture, farming, and therefore passed over to the first civilizations of many thousands of years ago, even more back as well. And during those periods, man has perfected the art of killing, the art of mass destruction, genocide. Throughout the centuries, we witnessed wars, the first two world wars, and so on. In even recent times, the genocide in Gaza, and so on, and other populations which went silent, which I think some years ago would have been a scandal, an outcry from members of the public. But here in Europe, we're undergoing a slower genocide. I call it a genetic genocide. We are being replaced by non-indigenous populations, not from Europe, from Africa, from the Middle East, contaminating our culture, our genetic heritage, our language, our laws, our lifestyle, and that type of democracy which so-called we have conquered in a certain way. Well, slowly, the traitors, which are those in Brussels, the Zionists and all that, is a part of the agenda to destroy indigenous Europe and replace them with more, savage people, which has a lower IQ scene in their part of the world. Let's face it, they live in a very backwards culture, and obviously the level of civilization and education is not that high as we have there, unless these subjects had to transfer into the West. And from a young age, they would have studied, they would adopt our customs, our way of living, and so on. And this in immigration, for example, United Kingdom and Commonwealth, I don't have half of the problems which they have today, 40 or 50 years ago. Obviously, there was a bit of, what you would call it, suspicion of these non-indigenous populations which came from the Commonwealth. And obviously, Enoch Powell, in his Rivers of Blood speech, said, quote, "In 20 years, a black man will be the masters of the white man." Well, in a certain way, it's true. And they're undergoing this so-called silent destruction of genetic genocide. Our population has been replaced by another population which has nothing in common with therefore what you call the modern day Europeans within a few centuries will be an extinct species if they continue at this rate. And these are perpetrated by the so-called globalists with their agendas, Agenda 2030, that excuse these people run away from wars which are caused by Zionists and globalists and so on. And obviously this will arrive to racial tension between the two communities, the locals, which are the indigenous people of that nation or place, and the non-indigenous people, which are consider as invaders today. They are practically destroying our society, overtaking and overminding many thousands of years of conquest, inheritage, and that, and it's already destroyed in a few years. We could even replace within in 200 years totally, especially when it comes to the Middle Eastern populations, which mainly they're Islamic, with their extremism imposing their faith upon the indigenous populations where they manifest. And obviously, with the help with politicians, leftists, globalists and Zionists as well. You may think this is a far-fetched thing, but it's reality, which every day we see when we walk down the street. You see this group of people which do not belong in our society because their culture is incompatible with our culture, because they didn't have the chance to know, to discover, to learn our customs, our languages and our laws. And also I mentioned these people, they come from a very backward society, a civilization. Some say it's medieval, it's a lot more worse than that is. And there are people of honour and stamina who are rising up against it. They're being accused of being racist, white supremacists and all that shit. There's nothing but racist to defend our culture from invaders. Because those people who do not want to integrate, they're not welcomed. Until immigration is under control, selected, and so on, the situation is controlled. But when you open up the floodgates, they just bring poverty, criminality, and their problems from their country they bring here. And obviously they degrade society, they create ghettos, and so on. Probably the powers that be, they want this to happen because replacing a population with another type of population which will be more easier to control, and regarding intellectually speaking more inferior than indigenous populations of Europe, with a more backward society and a more ignorant society, because let's face it, most of these people, as a majority, probably education or even that basic education they never had. And beyond so-called compulsory education, which each state for law imposes, beyond that most of them they don't. We see it with the second generation immigrants, North Africans. They always live in their ghettos, and there you are. They do not integrate. They speak always their language. In a country who they host, they should speak the language of the land. The language of the origin you should speak in your family, with your members of the community, not in front of everyone. When speaking your mother tongue, you only create and arouse suspicion in this way. So people, more these people come, more they will destroy our society, and more of the human population will go into total extinction. And